Look at this. Could it be? The end of the woke Reich draws near. Its time has come to an end. We are witnessing significant changes in the pillar that keeps progressive ideology flowing through our internets, through our veins, into our houses, giving us the benefit of political correctness, teaching us how to be decent humans that are fighting against racismus, ever vigilant, supporting our democracies, and again, the pillars of this perfect and beautiful system that has brought so much prosperity and happiness in the world is quaking. Like, fundamentally, it's being shaken from the roots, and it's going to bring upon a new system because progress is important. And so the people that are fighting this, they're reactionaries. As we get to see here, the fact checkers, they are having a knee-jerk reaction. They are bigots, close-minded individuals, unwilling to embrace change. Our societies must constantly be in flux. We must constantly progress and achieve change. Those that fight it are going to be labeled as bigots, systemic reactionaries. And so you're going to tune in to my channel, unlike conservatives such as Vosh, such as the son that wants us to be rooted in the old ways, rooted in tradition filled with bigotry and hatred, rather than allow us to move forward towards Mars with Elon Musk, a progressive at the helm. Now, let's talk a little bit about what is happening. Like, we are witnessing an actual fundamental shift in culture. Throughout Europe, we notice progressives are winning everywhere. The alternative for Deutschland, like an alternative view, right? The young generation is taking over, that they have like a different future in mind. In France, Emmanuel Macron's government is struggling. We got Romania canceling elections. We got Justin Trudeau in Canada. We got Donald Trump in the United States. Like a change in culture. It's not just a change in one political system. It is a completely different mindset. We are going to embrace a diversity of opinions now. And so many people are noticing that they have to adapt to progress or get left behind. And one of these people seems to be Zuckerberg, who is now realizing that in order to survive, he has to change the social media platform. The Young Turks, another example, right? Like, people are embracing the fresh winds of change. And so the old system isn't working. The old system used to have Facebook employ censors. Now, a lot of people dislike this terminology and said it's like, no, it's not censorship. And I was like, okay, let's assume that it's not. If it was to be censorship, how would it look like? Like, in an alternative universe where the government wants to dictate to people how to think, and they want the government policy to be the only acceptable policy on the internet, how would that look like? And I haven't got a response from that. The answer, it would look with censors. Exactly like this. Fact checkers, right? So like people who are nowhere to be found when you make decisions that can affect your life, such as making a mortgage at the bank, getting a student loan. Like they're nowhere to be found. No one can check the facts if it's a good idea to get a bank loan to become a lesbian dance master instructor. Is that a good idea? Like the bank tells me that, yeah, like, sure, we are going to give you the loan. The university professor, that fat capitalist gorging himself on the students' money, is going to tell you, yes, it's a very noble endeavor. You should become an expert in lesbian dance mastery. The economy loves that shit. Right? If you want to be a white person that's a diversity officer, is the university going to say, no, like, you're not going to get a job? Look at you. You're white. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, only women get to be diversity officers or people of color. You are just not born correctly for the job. You're like a woman trying to become a Catholic priest. Like, we understand, but it's just not going to happen, right? Like, you can go to the university as a woman. You can learn how to be a theologian in Catholicism, but you're not going to get the job, right? So, like, our religion, in the similar manner, we got standards to maintain. And so, they're not going to tell you that. And the fact checkers are nowhere to be found. Like, they were missing from the picture. But when it was about elections, when it was about voting, 350 fact checkers just to sniff Elon Musk's ass as he talks to the AfD politicians from Germany, right? Like that's when the fact checkers come in. Like, politicians, politics. It's about taking taxes. It's about grifting. Now we're here. And so social media was filled with censors. And I even tried to find, like there was a grift within the grift. Because I was actually curious. It's like, wow, these fact checkers, where did they learn how to fact check? Because it's so mysterious. Like, you're telling me that there is a human being capable of differentiating fact from fiction, something that no one else can do. And do they go to a university? Are they contacting aliens that probe their mind and install devices? Do they get like the Neuralink? No, apparently you had to pay, I think it was a couple of $100 to an NGO that was working with Facebook. And they would look through your timeline. They would see, is he a Trump supporter? Is he a Trump? Does he support Trump? What does he think of immigration? Does he want more? How much? What is the answer to immigration? What is the answer? Well, all of it. All the Middle East. Like, desolate the Middle East. Get all of them in the European Union. Yes, this is our man. Right? And then they would approve you and you became a fact checker. I'm not even kidding. Like, that was one of the ways that you could become a fact checker on Facebook. And so initially it started with banning slurs, gamer words. They're incredibly harmful. I'm really glad that the Russians haven't figured it out. Or maybe they did, but they're fighting Ukrainians. So Ukrainians have their own gamer words. They're built of stronger stuff. But here in the European Union, we're not as strong as the Ukrainians. We're weak. We're powerless, right? So if someone uses gamer words, it just destroys people. Like if I will ever find an entire village just completely decimated, but there's like no explosions, there's no bullets, just people dead, I will think that someone said nasty things on the internet. It just like crushed that entire village. And so that's how it started, right? To protect, like we're protecting, like a condom, like protecting the vulnerable of our society from words on their screen. And you couldn't call people words, but then it escalated. Then it was like political speech. It's like, what's your opinion on immigration? Oh, not allowed. Hunter Biden laptop, not allowed, right? So now we moved away from words to political concepts. Now we are looking towards China with envy. We're salivating. It's like, China, please give us your knowledge. How are you getting your people to be whipped into shape? How are you managing to fuck your people, but they're not rebelling? And so, like, we coveted that. We looked towards us. Like, come on, give us that. And that's what social media has turned into for the last couple of years. And the fact checkers now are being reactionary. They're saying, no, actually, like censoring speech gives you more free speech. So again, like, this is something that only the enlightened minds can grasp, right? Because if you're a midwit, if you don't get a student loan to get to a university, you're a midwit, you're a plumber, you're a farmer, you know, you're someone not important. You don't really understand just how rich and philosophical this statement is. Like, censorship actually gives you more free speech. What they're trying to say, it's like during COVID, you had the unvaccinated bigots and the vaccinated aristocracy, right? So, like, the aristocracy would not use a platform if you had bigots on it. Like, if you had someone that said, well, you know, maybe it came from a lab in Wuhan. Well, maybe masks don't work, right? Like, you have like this level of bile and filth plaguing the social media. And so the aristocracy would go somewhere else. Where? I don't know. But they just wouldn't want to use the platform because it was tainted. And as such, by banning the filth, by banning the Joe Rogans of the world, by banning the Tucker Carlsons, the aristocracy can finally use social media. And then you have more free speech. That, right? Like, that's what they're trying to articulate. But with Elon Musk, it turns out that is not the case. It turns out that the aristocracy, while they complain, while they moan, they still use the platform. And so maybe fact checkers aren't required. Now, regardless of what Zuckerberg wants to accomplish, the question is, can he accomplish it? It's not so simple. right? Like this is something that I already discussed on a previous video where Elon Musk hadn't bought Twitter yet, and it was Jack Dorsey. And I pointed out, like, regardless if Jack Dorsey wants free speech, it's very unlikely to happen because the censorship doesn't necessarily come from the CEO anymore. Like, when Elon Musk actually got control of Twitter, he fired, like, how much? 70% of the people, right? And now he's getting pressured from the European Union, from China Light. And so, even if you want to allow free speech, you have various difficulties. Already, there are people within Facebook that are protesting. They're doing walkouts. They don't like this shit. The European Union itself, you gotta understand, back in 2018, because this is what Zuckerberg wants to do, basically, like revert the changes to like a 2018 era. You still have censorship, but it's not as bad, it's not as egregious as it is today. Like, basically what he wants you to do is to be able to say, I don't think a man can become a woman. But you can't actually tell a trans person, you can't tell them, dude, you're a man, right? So, like, if you have concepts, like, this is how bad the censorship has gotten. Like, if you just talk about the concept as a whole, you would still be censored. And Zuckerberg wants to dial it back a little. It's like, not full way, but like, can we not have it to the point where someone just talks about the concept? And I already see articles. It's like, oh, so now on Facebook you can claim that homosexuality is a mental illness and not get banned? This is horrible, atrocious. You can't call a person that's a homosexual to be ill of the mind. Like, you can't do that. You get banned. But to talk about the homosexuality in general and to spark a conversation, apparently that under the new TOS is going to be allowed. And so a lot of people that are working at Facebook are doing walkouts. But then you gotta wonder about the government itself, because in 2018 in the European Union, it was allowed. It was permissible. Like, pretty much everything you can say on the phone, everything you can say in public, you could have said it on social media. But the problem is that the culture has shifted. And so there's different legislation. And so if you say something like that, you can get in trouble, not with Facebook, but with the government. And there are organizations that are monitoring social media. And so, like, if the European Union finds something unsavory, they can require takedown notices, and they can fine Zuckerberg if it doesn't comply. Now, the interesting thing is that they were doing this to Elon Musk. But if Facebook joins ranks, and if Google were to join ranks, and they would all change their way the censorship works, then the European Union would be powerless. Why? Social media is important today in order to have a functioning economy in a first world nation. It's the truth. Like, most people don't watch TV anymore. You need the advertisement, you need the media to function, like the actual apparatus that does PR for the government, right? And so you can't get rid of it unless you collapse your nation. Australia tried getting rid of, I think it was Facebook, and they realized, oh shit, our small-time businesses are suffering. We need to get it back. So they cocked. Like, a nation cocked against Facebook. Because, again, the economy is strictly tied to social media. And so the European Union cannot have robust social media. Why? Because it regulated against it. The GDPR compliance, which is like their flagship in human rights and other crap, is incredibly expensive to implement. And so the only companies that can do it are the ones that are large enough. The Silicon Valley. China would probably do it. I mean, no, China does it. Yeah, like, we got TikTok here. Yeah, so China and the United States. And this is like a thing with the European Union. Like, they will regulate something so that they can't produce it internally, so that we don't have our version of WeChat, so that we don't have our version of YouTube. And then we use it from outside, and we try to regulate the outside sources. But, like, what if the outside sources say, you know what, go fuck yourselves? And they just ban the EU. And they're going to take the loss, because they're going to be like, if we keep paying fines to them, it's actually less profitable than if we just cut them off. And then what are the European Union going to do? When the politicians are unable to do their advertisements, when they realize that the government can't get past important information, they're going to cuck, just like Australia. That's what's going to happen. And I'm pretty sure they're aware of this, right? Because they really hate Silicon Valley. Like, this is fascinating. They don't allow our Silicon Valley to grow. Because I think like that there were a couple of Eastern European countries that did try, and they were actually quite successful at making like their own social media companies, and they were starting to expand until the GDPR compliance came in, and they were like, well, this is crippling us. We can't actually follow through. Just to understand how fucked up GDPR compliance is, the European Union was fined for violating GDPR laws. Like, fuck off with this shit. But anyway, right, so the same thing with AI. And if you want to use someone else's shit, well, that person can put terms and conditions. Like, sure, you want to use our stuff, that's fine. Especially if it's something as vital. Like at this point, a lot of people from the past realize that utilities are essential. Water, heating, electricity, these are essential. But because the internet progressed so fastly, to the point where a couple of decades ago, it wasn't even remotely similar to what it is now, and that internet now integrates banking and integrates businesses, and like, you literally cannot operate in a first world nation without access to internet. They don't consider social media to be a utility. I think it is. And I think it's very dangerous as a nation to rely on other people to give you utilities when you yourself aren't even trying to develop your own shit. And I think, Facebook joining Twitter and maybe others are going to create a new system. Is it going to be censorship free? Absolutely not. But there's going to be a different way of doing the censorship. There's going to be different things that are getting censored. And there's going to be a grace period, a time period in which you will have more freedom than what you used to have 2 years ago. So maybe like 2 or 3 years, you're going to have more freedom on social media than we used to have 2 and 3 years ago. And then the censorship will kick back. And then the same process will happen up until, someone will break that system. I don't know what the future is going to be like. I think it's going to be AI dominated. Like, you won't have fact checkers, you'll probably have AI. And maybe the algorithm is going to be tinkered with a lot more, like more subversive type of censorship. It's like, okay, you say something that should be censored, that's okay, you can still say it. The government can still arrest you if you live in Britain. But the algorithm will suppress that. It's very unlikely to get viral. I think that's the future. Still a better future than now, to be honest, because it's way too easy for the governments to censor. I want it to be a little bit more difficult. Like, I understand censorship is important, it's the bread and butter of modern democracies, but let's make it a little bit harder. A little bit harder to grift, more expensive. I want to pay more taxes anyway. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.